Hi, my name is Jade Aimers and today I'm with Jessica Woodcock, who has been elected unopposed to the position of GUSA President. Hi Jess.
Hi Jade, thank you for having me on today.
That's all right. Do you want to just give a quick 10-15 seconds about you?
Yeah, so I'm Jessica Woodcock and I've just been elected unopposed to GUSA President, as you say, for 2021-2022. I'm currently the GUSA Secretary and have been for the past year, and prior to that I was the GUSA Travel Convener in 2018 to 2019. I've been part of quite a few of the clubs over the years. I'm currently a part of the Women's Hockey Club, and I've also been a part of lacrosse, ski and snowboard, sailing and surf, although I was not very good at the surfing one.
Grand, thank you so much. Well, just when you're speaking about your experience there, that brings me on to my first question. So you've had 2 years on GUSA Council. What's been your proudest moment?
My proudest moment, that's a very good question. I think this year has been very, very difficult, of course, with coronavirus, and a lot of the hopes and ideas that we had as a council and individually in our convener and executive roles, we've not really been able to come to fruition, which is a huge shame, really. Some of the ideas were brilliant, and I really wanted to see the Blues and Colours event come to life for the first time. Previous to me, Jason McBurney, who was the secretary beforehand, was working hard to make that a reality, and unfortunately it didn't quite get there, but I did a lot of work into that to try and make it happen, and I've unfortunately just had to cancel it this year, but everything is in place, and I've been really proud of what we've achieved, even though it hasn't been able to go ahead. So fingers crossed that will be potentially next year. For a permanent event for the calendar as well, which would be really nice to celebrate our athletes.
No, yeah, I'm really excited to hear about it. So just taking a look at your manifesto. So you said that you wanted to create an extended committee with people from GUSA, SRC and club sport. Can you just give me a little bit more detail about that? Like, how many members will it have? Is it elected? How do you plan to set it up?
Of course. So this is part of my my representation point. So I think with my insight into GUSA, my experience, I think we always struggle to kind of get the representation we need as an association for everyone within sport, and we could do a lot more within representing more of our diverse population and the wider community in the university. And so this was some things that have come up from Phoebe Riley's manifesto, and Sharif kind of tried to implement it last year as well. Working with our cross-campus bodies, specifically the SRC, to create a kind of overarching recreational sports structure, which would allow us to tap into a more diverse population within the university body, and create something that everyone can feel comfortable and be involved in. And to do this, I would hope to create a committee in which we could have members of GUSA and a member of the SRC on a committee together. And these would also include members from club sport, so the clubs themselves could gain outreach into this community as well. It would be a big thing to challenge and take on, but I think we've done really well this past year with our recreational sport, even though a lot of sport hasn't been able to go ahead. The intramural leagues that have been set up by our previous events convener, George, have been really, really wonderful. They've got some glowing feedback, and they've really helped people in this hard year, essentially, where you haven't been able to get out and do too much. And it would be great to kind of implement something in a wider kind of sense in the university, that SRC and GUSA muck in together to get more people involved within that as well, and make more people feel comfortable within that, within sport.
Yeah, grand. Would you be looking, like, how many people are you talking here? Do you think it's like a couple representatives from each, or is it like 15 around? Like,
it would start off small scale, essentially. So it would be a representative from GUSA, potentially the events convener that we're trying to push more into the recreational sport as well. We'd have our events convener and then an SRC representative as well, and then create a couple of,
to give that engagement, as opposed to it being, you know, something they sign up to and then that's that.
Well, essentially, I believe that all clubs are very different. They vary in size, they vary in what they offer, everything. And I do think that all the clubs could learn a lot from each other. And this year within COVID, that's even been apparent. Stripped back to the bare bones of everything, without a lot of sport going on, clubs have been helping each other out by doing the Zoom workouts together and stuff. And you just see some relationships that say, if we can do this within a COVID year, imagine what we could do coming out of COVID. And I think it's so important that there will be clubs who are able to return to sport earlier than other clubs. outdoor clubs who are able to socially distance during trainings will be able to return earlier than potentially the indoor clubs or the close combat clubs, for example. So I think that the clubs who return first obviously will encounter these challenges with COVID and getting around the safety measures, etc., and just how to take the best step forward back into return of sport. And I think that the smaller clubs and the clubs that essentially approach sport, the return to sport later, could benefit a lot from hearing, okay, what went wrong, what went well, what's the feedback here? So I think creating this inter-club network, which could at the same time be social as well and help engagement and outreach across the whole of GUSA come together, would be a brilliant thing to do. Whether this is in a forum or in a more, as I said, social or informal environment, we're really going to try and promote that this year to kind of get clubs talking to each other.
Yeah, so you think it'd be more a case of like you show the benefit of it and the clubs themselves will be drawn to it?
I mean, it's apparent this year that the clubs have shown a benefit themselves already. And I think we just need to support that and kind of implement it into the foundations of GUSA as well. Yeah,
no, totally agree. So the welfare prong of your manifesto, everybody knows the importance of the welfare conveners, especially this year. And you said that you want to, ensure that the training for club welfare conveners is vast and delivered early. Do you have any key differences going forward in the training for welfare conveners? What's going to be different this year as opposed to last?
I think essentially I want to keep all the training that we've been able to have all the previous years in GUSA. All of it's been very, very useful. But I think especially within this year, we're going to put an emphasis within safety and hygiene and the approach essentially coming out of COVID as well, because there are a lot of people who are going to be very nervous about return to sport. And likewise, on the other scale, there are people who want to run back into the return to sport as well. So I think having an approach to this, which will be based around COVID as well, in addition to all of the welfare trainings we've put on previously, will be very beneficial and definitely something to get on the list early.
Yeah, no, amazing. So just last question. I just wondered if you could comment on how the last year, sport's been on pause for the most part, how the last year has impacted the health of GUSA as like an organisation. So this year, council, a lot of positions, including all of exec, were unopposed. Can you attribute that to coronavirus, or do you think there's something else going on about engagement?
That's a very good question. Obviously, this year has been very tricky for everyone in specific regards to sport as well, as not much sport has gone on. So as an association, it's been very hard to plan things and then have to plan them again and then plan them again until you essentially have to cancel, postpone them. I do think a lot of good work has been done behind the scenes, and the whole council this year have worked so hard to make that happen. And I think it shows just how many people want to rerun the great ideas they have and the great ideas that they would still like to be they like to have come to fruition essentially. And I have full faith in the exec that it will be a wonderful one to take a wonderful exec to take GUSA forward anyway. And I think definitely it's been a hard year, but we have had we've been able to find the silver linings within it as well, and push towards more social things like the recreational sport and the intramural sport, and at the same time focus on updating our facilities as well, which is a win overall for the year in COVID. But onwards and upwards.
Well, that was my last question. Thank you so much, Jess. And do you have anything you want to add just at the end?
No, this has been wonderful. Thanks very much for talking to me, Jade.
No, that's okay. Right, so thank you.
Thanks.